Before ransomware gangs lock your files, someone usually opens the door first. In May 2024, police kicked in that door before the extortion crews could. Not at one victim, at the hidden supply chain behind countless attacks. Operation Endgame was not just another hacker arrest headline. Europol, Eurojust, the US Department of Justice, Germany's BKA, France, the Netherlands, Denmark, the UK, and others went after the infrastructure that moved malware into victim networks at scale. The loaders, the droppers, the brokers of the first breach. And if you like stories where the technical back end turns into a manhunt with seizures, indictments, and named suspects, subscribe. This channel follows cybercrime where it actually starts, not just where it explodes. Who were the targets here? Not the ransomware crews you see in splashy headlines. The people and services that allegedly rented access to them. Bumblebee, Qakbot, TrickBot, malware families tied again and again to the opening stages of larger crimes. What strikes me about this case is how invisible that layer usually is. Most people only hear about the hospital locked up, the factory offline, the school district paying up. They never hear about the quiet middlemen who make those disasters possible. And that is the thesis of this story. Operation Endgame mattered because police targeted cybercrime like organized logistics, not isolated hacks. Europol said the action in May 2024 disrupted more than 100 servers worldwide. Authorities also seized over 2,000 domains tied to criminal infrastructure. The DOJ announced charges against alleged malware operators connected to long-running access services. Germany named suspects. The US offered rewards for information on key figures tied to Qakbot and TrickBot. This was a supply chain strike. To understand why that matters, you have to picture cybercrime less like a lone genius in a hoodie and more like a burglary crew, where one person picks the lock, another rents the getaway car, and someone else sells the address list. Loaders are the lock pickers. They deliver the first malicious foothold so somebody else can monetize it later. Bumblebee is a good example. According to US prosecutors, it functioned as a loader used to gain a foothold on compromised systems and then deploy additional malware. That additional malware part is where the real danger lives. Once the door is open, banking malware, spyware, or ransomware can follow. Qakbot had a similar place in the ecosystem. Over the years, investigators and private sector researchers repeatedly linked it to initial compromise and follow-on deployment. TrickBot, too, evolved from banking malware into something much bigger, becoming part of a criminal pipeline that fed later intrusions. Different names, same role in the underworld economy. Open access, pass it downstream, get paid. And when I read through the official announcements, one detail stayed with me. This was not framed as a victory over one spectacular attack. It was framed as an operation against infrastructure. That is a very different target. It means investigators were aiming at the plumbing. So let me ask you this. What is more dangerous in cybercrime today? The ransomware gang that makes the threat public, or the access broker that quietly opens the network first? Drop your answer in the comments. The how of Operation Endgame starts years before the 2024 takedown. These malware services had already been tracked through takedowns, sinkholes, reappearances, and rebrands. Qakbot infrastructure had been disrupted in 2023 through a separate US-led action. TrickBot had taken repeated hits before, but pieces of the ecosystem kept regenerating. New loaders appeared, old operators shifted, affiliates migrated. That is the part the headlines often miss. cybercrime does not die when one botnet goes dark. It reroutes. Like shutting one smuggling tunnel and finding 3 more nearby. So, in 2024, investigators pushed wider. Urgent. During the Endgame Action Week, law enforcement announced coordinated seizures against servers used to launch or manage malware services. According to Europol and partner agencies, the operation targeted malware variants, including Bumblebee, Lactrodectus, Qakbot, Danabot, HijackLoader, SmokeLoader, SystemBC, and TrickBot. That list matters because it shows a marketplace, not a single crew. German authorities publicly named several wanted suspects. The DOJ unsealed charges against Rustam Rafaelovich Gulyamov, accused of leading development and deployment of the malware known as Qakbot. U.S. authorities caught Fours advertising trademark violations in containers. Authorities also announced a reward of up to $10 million for information leading to him under the State Department's Transnational Organized Crime Rewards Program. Separate reward notices also named alleged figures tied to TrickBot. Names, faces, price tags. And there is an insight here that goes beyond the obvious. We tend to talk about ransomware as if the ransom note is the crime. It is not. The note is the receipt. The real business model starts much earlier, with whoever can reliably place malicious code inside thousands of machines and then sell that access at scale. Already, this changes how you look at the whole ecosystem. The hospital that gets hit at the end of the chain may never know the name of the loader that opened the path. The victim sees the explosion. Investigators follow the fuse. But here is where the story gets darker. Operation Endgame did not just describe old malware. Europol warned that some of the people hit by the takedown were expected to regroup or rebuild. And shortly after the action, investigators pointed to newer strains, including Lactrodectus, as part of the same evolving loader landscape. In other words, this was a raid on an active marketplace, not a museum exhibit. Think about that for a second. Police were not sweeping up digital fossils. They were interrupting a live supply chain that ransomware crews, data thieves, and fraud actors could still buy into. Have you ever noticed how the most dangerous criminal in a conspiracy is often the one whose name you never hear? Not the gunman, the supplier, the fixer, the person with the keys. That is what makes this case feel less like a tech report and more like true crime. The men named in these notices were not accused of making noise. They were accused of making access possible. Europol said the operation caused major disruption to malware dropper services used to deploy ransomware. Eurojust described it as the largest operation ever against botnets, playing a major role in ransomware deployment. The numbers were big, yes. But the strategic shift is what impressed me most. Investigators treated cybercrime like a market with wholesalers, resellers, and infrastructure providers. If that shift hit you the way it hit me when I read the case files, leave a like. Because once you see the underworld as a supply chain, a lot of cybercrime headlines suddenly make much more sense. The impact is easy to miss because this story is one step removed from the victims. But that distance is exactly the point. Loaders like these allegedly enabled later crimes against hospitals, companies, local governments, and ordinary users. They are the unseen hinge between an infected email and a city losing systems, between a stolen credential and payroll chaos. And when that hidden layer works, real people pay for it. Surgeries get delayed. Paychecks stall. School systems go dark. Small businesses lose days they cannot afford. Nobody at a hospital cares whether the first payload was a loader or a banking Trojan. They only know the computer stopped working. My view is this. Law enforcement is at its strongest in cybercrime when it maps the business model, not just the breach. Takedowns aimed at the back end will never be glamorous in the same way as a dramatic rescue story. But they are probably more important. Because if you can make initial access scarcer, more expensive, and riskier, you pressure every criminal layer above it. The legacy of Operation Endgame is still unfolding. Some suspects remain at large. Some services will mutate. Others will rebrand. That is normal in this world. But a line was crossed in 2024. Authorities showed they could move beyond victim response and hit the marketplace where malicious access was traded like inventory. That may be the real message here. The cyber underworld likes to act invisible until the ransom note appears. Endgame said no. We can trace the brokers, seize the servers, burn the domains, name the operators, and turn the backend into a crime scene. And maybe that is the detail nobody outside this world notices enough. Before the chaos, before the encryption, before the headlines. There is usually a quiet hand on the doorknob. In May 2024, police grabbed that hand. If true crime tech is your thing, subscribe and join me here. I pull these stories from indictments, agency notices, and forensic reporting, and not just the loudest headlines. There is always another layer under the crime.